for you guys in the area of STEM and science. And it's always exciting. He'll let me know he ran into a scientist, or he heard about someone from NASA, heard about this person, and he'll make the contacts necessary. Because in life, a lot of times it's about networking. You can learn a lot from the people. That's why we love Twitter. That's why we love being able to just have so many wonderful resources. Well, he's arranged for a special guest to be with us through Skype this morning. And I'm going to turn it over to him, and let's give him a warm, wide eagle welcome.
I'm very thankful to be in front of you, and I am inspired by how much STEM has affected Vikram and then a lot of his friends. So whenever you try to look at a problem and start figuring out how to solve it, that is what is in it for your teachers, the school, and all of your parents. So because we have somebody waiting and they are expecting to be called in 15 minutes, I'm just going to jump right in. And this is the story behind this story, Out of My Mind. How many of you have not read Out of My Mind? Not read the... fourth grade has not read it yet. Okay, so we'll try not to let the story behind the story out, or at least keep parts of the story as a suspense. It is about a child who has a certain problem, and how someone helps that particular child. And there is a science story behind that story. So we're not going to discuss the story itself, and you will read the book and you will understand the story. This is the story behind that story. All right, so it's about a girl named Rachel. And to understand what Rachel did and how she was a scientist at a young age, we're going to play a quick game. All right? And the game is going to start when we go to the next page. And here's what this game is all about. We are all going to pretend that we are unable to talk. All right? So not a word, not a sound, nothing. And I'm going to ask you a question, and you need to respond without shouting out the answer. And if you succeed, you will get a tougher question. And if you succeed, you will get an even harder question. Let's see how it is to live inside the shoes of someone who cannot communicate. All right? So ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hey! See? Now, are you ready?
Yes. Sure.
Now we're going to try one more. Remember, you cannot talk. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Right. Okay? We are unable to talk. The first test. Was it raining when you came to school this morning?
No.
All right. Well, most of you got it right. Right? So if you were not able to speak, you would have gotten that right. And that's pretty good. So you answered that question. So how about we make it a little harder? All right? We're going to make it a little harder. You cannot talk. Those of you that talked the first time, remember you are unable to talk. The second test, how many hands do you have? Look at this. We're making a lot of progress. She has 10 hands. That's good to know. Right? Now this is going to cause problems. So you have to be very clear about how you signal. Right? Because if you cannot talk, you're going to have to make sure you can explain the answer in a very clear way. All right? Now we're going to try something even harder. All right? Remember, no talking. What does the mailman leave in your mailbox? The mailman leaves that in your mailbox. He leaves this in your mailbox. This is not helping. All right? As you can see, there are even very simple things that you cannot communicate effectively if you cannot use your voice. We're going to up the ante even more now. At least you were trying to do this, right? And maybe after a little bit, people can understand that. I prearranged the next challenge. The next challenge is pretty hard. And so I told Vikram already, he doesn't have to come here, but I gave him a certain sentence. Assume that you are not able to talk, or Vikram is not able to talk, and you have to understand what he's going to say. Vikram, give it a whirl for 15. Stand up, please. They cannot see. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can sit down, Vikram. I'm going to ask 3 people. What do you think he said?
Pizza.
Pizza what? You. Somebody's making pizza. You.
Pizza box.
Pizza box. Okay. Andrew, and then we'll stop right there. Go ahead. What do you think Vikram said? He doesn't like pizza. The sentence I gave to Vikram was, how many slices are there in an extra large pizza? All right? It's a common question. You're there. You want to know how many slices there are. The problem is, if you cannot speak, your world stops very quickly. Right? And the reality of the matter is, there are many kids in the world who have multiple kinds of issues, and some children cannot talk. I cannot see very well. Lucky for me, I have contact lenses, and I can see that. I take it out, you'll all look like a blur to me. Bunch of moving heads, I wouldn't know who's where. But luckily, I have a solution that I can use. And there are children in the world who cannot move a lot, and they cannot talk. Imagine them having to ask how many slices there are in an extra large pizza. Imagine them having to say, what does the mailman leave in a mailbox? So now comes the science challenge. We're all done, say, pretending we cannot speak. That doesn't mean you speak out of turn. And so we're going to put on our engineer's hats. You walk in and you see that there is a child who is not able to communicate well. And we're going to use the STEM process. Now, what is the STEM process? Very, very quick review. You're going to first identify the problem. You're going to say, I think I know this is the problem. The child cannot speak. There are very simple things that need to be communicated, right? And then we're going to research the problem. What can I do to help? I suppose I can ask the child to do signs, but how many slices are there in a pizza? The signs are not going to do, right? And then we're going to design a prototype, right? And then we're going to try the solution, and then we're going to improve it and keep repeating it until the solution gets better. I'm going to seek for exactly 3 ideas. Go ahead.
What if the person used sign language?
Sign language. So some kids can only go this far. So they cannot do that. So sign language, where you're saying, let me make sure I understood you. You're saying use their hands to make signs in the air. Okay? Well, they don't have that much mobility. Go ahead.
Use technology on electronic.
Use technology to help these people. Make that clearer, please. Speaking device. How would they use a speaking device? Tell me more. They press the words they want to use, and the word then speaks for them. How many words do you think they will need on a keyboard? Thousands, so it's a pretty big keyboard. Last try. Go ahead, Zach. They could type it out. That's a good possibility, but you need a lot of finger movement with both hands, right? You need that. And let me just keep moving so we don't keep the other party waiting, all right? Here is what someone else came up with. And it's a combination of what all of you guys thought about. There were symbols already called bliss symbols. Remember, if you cannot do this in the air, you can still do that. So they designed something where you can draw a circle. That means the sun. Was it raining outside this morning? You can draw a couple of pictures. Well, here's the challenge. If I drew 7 pictures and those were 7 words, will the kid in the back row know what I drew? No way. So what do I need to do? I need to then hold it up. Can I hold it up? I can't lift my hands. I'm in a wheelchair. So you know what happens? Going back in years, there used to be a teacher's aide who would stand next to the child, and they would say, this kid is saying, was it raining outside before you came to school? The school system is funded by your taxes. right? Your mom and dad in their houses, they pay taxes. Well, if you have to put an 8 for every one of these kids, they would not have enough money to keep the lights on. So we need something better than that, right? And so here is what one kid did. Her name was Rachel. She was 12 years old when she started this project. She was in middle school, all right? So do not think that scientists look like big helmets and astronauts and lab coats. A 12-year-old girl went home and said, hey, I want to do something about this. Because in my class there are 2 kids, or whatever the situation may be, I want to make an impact. What can I do? Right? And she came up with an idea, and she presented it at her school science fair. Like you, her parents were also interested in STEM, and they volunteered. So you better go ask your parents to volunteer. And we're going to stop right here, because I don't want to tell you more about this kid. We're going to bring that kid, who is now a grown-up, on that video. Her name was Rachel, and we're going to surprise her, and she doesn't know this is coming. This is the symbol for hello. All right? So when she comes online, remember the book Out of My Mind is about kindness. I'm intentionally not going to pick people. There are 50, so you can keep that and pass it down. All right? You figure out how not to argue and be kind. And if you don't have enough, then you share. All right? Not everybody is going to have it. When she comes online, we're not going to speak. We're just going to hold the word for hello in bliss symbols. All right? All right. I'm going to get her on. That's a great question. Hold it that way.
Here's your motto, boys and girls.
Look on the board.
Hey, 0 voice right now. 0 voice. And once you do the hello, boys and girls, need to put it on your lap and not touch it, because the audio will be very sensitive and you're going to really have to stay quiet. We've been testing it for a while. We want to make sure the audio is good, but we don't want to hear the paper shuffling. So once we do it, we put them down, try not to touch it, and listen in really carefully so we can hear our guest and she's not distracted by any unnecessary noise.
Guys, notice circle and then the arrows. So circle should be in your right hand.
Gotcha.
Flip it.
You're just wrong.
Flip it. Circles in your right hand.
No. Oh my God. No.
Dr. Brachman, give us just 1 minute. We're gonna rotate the screen. There you go. And stabilize it. We have an auditorium full of kids that we need to make sure you can see and they can see you right side up. So, bear with us here. All right. Is that giving you a reasonable view there?
Yeah, I can see that they're kids, but they're kind of fuzzy.
Well, there are. The kids are showing you something. They're showing you a paper with something. The camera is this way.
Camera's where the phone is.
It's a bliss symbol from your day. All right, well, thank you everybody. You can put that away. So let me review a couple of quick things, what we talked about, and you saw the material ahead of time. We kind of went through some examples of the challenges of a child's life if they cannot talk. And they tried some sentences. The first few were easy, and then they were harder. And then we said that, you were in class when you were 12, and you wanted to do something about it, and we stopped right there. So we want to pick up the story. And the 5th graders here have already read Out of My Mind, and they kind of know the story behind the story to some extent. The 4th graders have not yet read the book. They are going to be reading it soon. And so it's a great way for them to understand how one 12-year-old girl changed the world. And so I'm going to kind of continue the last question. So you saw the problem, which had to do with the child not being able to talk. What happened after that? Are you able to hear?
Yeah, so I can hear you. Okay, so when I was, okay, so first of all, how old are you guys? 9 and 10. Is that about right?
Yep.
9 and 10. Okay. When I was 11, okay, so only a year or two older than you are now, I was at my public library. And I found this book. It's called Bliss Symbolics, Speaking Without Speech. And if you can see the symbols on the cover, you probably recognize some of those, right? Those are bliss symbols. And I had never heard of bliss symbols before that when I was 11. And I found this book, and it talked about a girl named Carrie who had cerebral palsy. And when she was 7, she was one of the first kids that they gave bliss symbols to see if she could use them to communicate. And at first, they weren't really sure if they were getting through to her. They would show her a symbol and tell her what it meant, and then show her another symbol and tell her what it meant. But she wasn't really using the symbols yet. She was still just learning what they meant. And one night, she was home at dinner with her family, and her father was having trouble getting ketchup out of the bottle. You ever had trouble getting ketchup out of the bottle? Yeah. Now they have squeeze bottles. They have plastic bottles. But back then, the bottles were made of glass. And you can't squeeze a glass bottle to get the ketchup out, right? So she got all excited, and she started pointing to one of the symbols on her board. She was pointing to this symbol for water. She was saying, if you put water in the ketchup, it'll come out easier. Was that a good idea? Yeah, she was able to finally communicate one of her ideas, and her family realized that she was smarter than they had ever given her credit for. Can you imagine what it would be like if your family didn't think you were smart? Right? Your family knows you're smart, right? Right? You can read. You work hard in school. You answer your teacher's questions. Most importantly, you ask really good questions. That's how we know you're smart, by asking good questions. And so, finally, her family knew that she was smart. Just because she couldn't talk didn't mean she couldn't think. And when I read the story about Carrie, I said, I wonder if I could do something to help her. Because even though she found a way to communicate
Rachel,
What was your age?
I have a question for you. So you were 11, you said at that time, and you
At the time, yeah.
right. So you go home and you say want to create a science fair project. Now, did you get help from your parents? Were your parents involved in your school as a volunteer in any way? How did they come into the picture?
Yeah, so my dad was a university reference librarian. You guys have a librarian at your school? Yeah.
See right there.
So I have a librarian who was my dad. And from him I learned that you can learn anything. And my mom was a computer programmer. And from her I learned that you can do anything. So if you go through life knowing that you can learn anything and you can do anything, you're going to go a long way in life. Because you can do whatever you want. If you can learn anything and you can do anything, right?
Now I assume you went home, you tried, you were successful immediately in about 6 hours.
It took a long time. I had to learn how to teach my computer to, so when I was 11, I taught my computer how to draw the bliss symbols. And I made a slideshow of about 11 different symbols. And this is way before it was as easy to program computers as it is now. I was writing in a language called BASIC. And I was trying to teach my Atari computer how to draw graphics on the screen for each of the different bliss symbols that I wanted to show people. So at the bottom of the screen, I put the English meaning of the word, and then above that, I drew the symbol. And so I had to teach the computer how to draw the symbols. So first I had to learn how to get the computer to draw a line on the screen, and then I had to get it to make the line where I wanted the line to be. And then I had to make lots of lines, and then I had to figure out how to draw a circle, because some of the bliss symbols have circles in them, or part of a circle. Like a heart shape is 2 circles and 2 straight lines, right? 2 half circles and 2 straight lines. So I had to figure out how to get the computer to do that. But remember, by this point, I already knew that I could learn anything.
Right.
So
Rachel, I want to highlight something. In school, in the STEM program, we talk about the scientific process where you identify the problem, and then you create a prototype, and you test the prototype, and you keep refining it again and again. Are we hearing that you kind of did that without formally thinking about it as a scientific process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I tried something, if it didn't work, I tried a different way of doing it until I got it to work, and then I tried something else. And so that my first project when I was 11 was just getting my computer to draw 11 different bliss symbols on the screen. By the time I was 12, I did a different computer program. Now that I knew a little bit more about bliss and a little bit more about how to program my computer, I got a touch-sensitive board. Kind of like an iPad, but an iPad has different things on the screen. This is a touch-sensitive board that only has one screen. Okay, it doesn't change what's on the screen when you touch it. And this is a long time ago, so I may have been your age, but it was 30 years ago, right? So back then, the technology was not like what we have now. If we had an iPad back then, that's what I would have used. But we didn't have that yet, so I used something called PowerPad.
So what you're saying, Rachel, is that you took the tools that were available to you, and you did the best with what was there, and you created something to address a problem with what you had around your world. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so when I was teaching my computer how to recognize when different parts of the board were touched, and I associated each part of the board with a different symbol, then I could teach the computer that if I touched this part of the board with this symbol written on it, that it would put the word for that symbol on the screen. So now you could write sentences, you could tell your teacher what you want, you could tell your parents what you want, you could write poetry, you could write an essay for class. There are all sorts of things you can do once you can write if you couldn't communicate before.
No.
Right? So if you didn't have a way of talking or writing, this was a way that you could communicate.
Right. Now, did you teach yourself programming, or did you go to a special class to learn that? How did you do that?
I took a little bit of programming classes, but most of what I needed for this program I learned on my own.
So you can go to the library, get a book, and spend time by yourself and acquire the skill. It's not like you need a special environment, is what you're saying.
Right. And right now, if I were your age and I was starting right now, I would start programming in Scratch. Any of you used Scratch before?
Few hands are going up.
Okay. Scratch is a computer programming language invented at MIT specifically for kids your age. It's pretty easy to learn and pretty easy to use, and it's a lot of fun. My son is 12 years old and he loves to program using Scratch.
And so you create this prototype for the, when you were 11 for science fair, and then you said the next year you improved it. Did you try again? Did you test it with children, or when was the first time you actually had a child use it?
Yeah, so amazingly, one of the first people who tested the Bliss symbol printer was Carrie, the one who was 7 years old in the book that I read, but she was in her 20s by the time I invented the Bliss symbol printer. And so I went to Toronto, which at that point was about a 2-hour drive from my house, and my parents took me, and I got a chance to test it with one of the very first Bliss users.
Wow. I mean, that must be rewarding for you to identify a problem, come up with a solution, and actually test it with somebody who now can communicate. Was it an absolute success and everything worked, or were there some setbacks? How did that go?
Well, there were some words that she wanted to say that weren't on the board. And luckily, one of the things I did with the Bliss symbol printer is I put the English alphabet around the outside, so that there are 100 symbols on the board, and then there's also an alphabet around the outside, so if the word you want is there, or if you want to talk about a specific person instead of people in general, you can indicate with an initial which person you're talking about. So, like, boy J might be Johnny, right? And boy K might be Kevin.
Got it.
So you need to have the alphabet. So if there was a word that she wanted on the board, she could just spell it if she didn't see the symbol for it on the board.
Got it. What I would like to do at this point is kind of maybe take a time to ask the kids, maybe 4 or 5 of them, just listening to what they saw ahead in time and the story up until now. Let me kind of turn it back here, and we're just going to pick 4 kids at random. And what question do you have for Rachel listening to what she did when she was a child at 11, going to the library, getting books? Go ahead. The kids are all the way at the back. You have to speak loud, and I'll repeat your question. Yes, that's you. Go ahead. Did you have a question, or you were scratching your back? Okay, go ahead. So he wants to know if they did not have computers back then.
Good question. I was really lucky that I had a computer because my mom was a computer programmer, so we always had computers in the house. We even took a field trip to my house to visit the computer when I was in 2nd grade, because the other kids in my class didn't have computers yet. Back then, an Apple computer system would cost about $10,000, which is a lot of money. And my computer, including, it's funny because my computer didn't have a screen built in, you had to plug it into a black and white television. And so between the computer, the television, the little printer plotter, and the power pad, it cost about $500 worth of equipment. So I was trying to make something that was affordable enough that people could have it at home, not just at a school or a hospital. So people could bring their way of talking home with them.
Got it. Another question, that kid right there. Go ahead, speak loud, please.
Is what you made a product that you can buy in stores right now?
Is what you made a project that somebody can walk in and buy at a store presently?
I don't know that it's something you can walk into a store and buy right now, but there are whole conferences on technology for people with disabilities, and they all have with variations on the concept of being able to help people communicate if they can't talk or if they can't write. There's a whole field called assistive technology, which is helping people communicate in non-traditional ways.
So the point that you need to think through is, once you create something, the world changes to accept it and make it better for the people that live there. So a long time ago, there was no iPhone. So if you wanted to say something to your grandparents and they didn't live around you, you would write a letter, lick a stamp, put it in the mailbox, and hope they read it. Now you FaceTime your grandparents. And so as new things arrive, the world adapts to use it. And what Mrs. Zimmerman is saying is, once she created one little way to think about it, and the world realizes technology can be used to help kids, then there are many other people who go through the scientific process and come up with others. Go ahead.
How many people use how many people use the Bliss printer that you made now?
Well, she said the one that she made is not commercially available in stores, right? But there are variations of it. Andrew, go ahead. All right, just make sure you have your question formed, okay? Go ahead.
Do you still have the original one?
Do you still have the original one that you made?
My parents still have it in their basement. equipment.
Hey,
Yeah. If I
realize
was
that.
now, I would start with an iPad because they're much more easily accessible. A lot more people can get them. They would have internet access so that you could write to somebody who's not in the room with you, which you couldn't do back then. When I invented the Blissable printer, there was no email yet. People couldn't write to each other using a computer. Now you can.
Hey, I want to kind
There
of.
was no FaceTime. There was no talking to people video chat back then.
Right.
Now you can probably find another way of communicating that way. One of the first uses of FaceTime was with the deaf community, with people who can't use the telephone, but they can have conversations using American Sign Language because you can see each other.
I want to kind of make a side point in what Mrs. Zimmerman just said. The project that she made when she was 11 is still there in their parents' house. The first chicken you guys drew when you were in kindergarten is still there in your kitchen. And as you start getting interested in science and creating prototypes, you may think of it as a little project that you did, but you're creating memories for your parents, because what's important is not just what you created, but what you went through in order to create it. So the more you think about problems and apply the scientific process in order to solve it, you are creating memories for you and your family. So let me kind of go back to your childhood. It seems like you were a kid who automatically was interested in science one way or the other. Is that a fair statement?
I love science. I still do.
So what is your advice to kids in this age? You know, there may be some that may say, well, you know, I don't understand this particular subject right away, or, you know, I kind of like, you know, I want to become an athlete, or I want to become something else. I mean, every trade has its dignity. What would you say for the future, you know, 15 years from now, whether or not somebody is in a science career, what should they think about at this age today?
At this age, well, I'll give you the same messages that I give my son, who's a little bit older than you, but more or less your age. I tell him you can learn anything, right? So how do you get better at something you're not already good at? You learn a little bit about it, and then you practice until you're really good at it, and then you'll learn a little bit more and practice that too. So whether it's math or science or gymnastics or whatever it is you're interested in, you learn a skill, and then you practice it till you get really good at it.
Now, how many of you here, and there was a previous speaker who asked this question, so I'm going to ask it again. How many of you here do not think science is going to play a big part in your life? So a few hands are going up, and you know, every kid is entitled to their opinion who think that in 10 years science will not play a big part in their life. What would be your response to them 10 years later? How likely is their life to be impacted by science?
Well, if you include medicine as part of science, if any of you got a flu shot, then science plays a big role in your life because it'll keep you alive for another year.
So the message here is whether or not you become a scientist, science is helping you stay alive so you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And so whether or not you pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, and math, realize that you need to be more aware of it than just, you know, it's there for my iPad. And that is really the goal of STEM. Now, a couple quick things as we kind of draw to the conclusion here. Perhaps you have questions for the kids here, so we'll let you ask some questions.
Sure. I want to know, let's see, if you guys wonder what I do now, because I was an inventor when I was 11 and 12 years old. Don't you wonder what I do now? Who wants to know what I do now? So, for the last 11 years, basically your whole life, I've been working on the mission to Saturn that was orbiting Saturn from 2004 to 2017. So your whole life, I was working on a spacecraft that was orbiting Saturn. Now, the mission just ended 2 months ago. So now I'm on a new project, but for most of your lives I was working on the Cassini mission to Saturn.
How many of you know about the Cassini mission to Saturn? Not a majority. Would you kindly tell the kids what that mission was about?
Okay, so in 1997, 20 years ago, we launched a spacecraft that was to be built in California and launched from Florida. And it took 7 years to get from Earth all the way to Saturn. And we were very interested. I was working with scientists and engineers who were interested in what Saturn is made of, how old the rings are, how many moons it has, and what's different about each of the moons, because it has like 62 moons. When we launched our spacecraft, we only knew about 18 of those moons. And we thought 18 was a lot of moons for a system. We wanted to know about its magnetic field. We wanted to see, it has like northern lights, like an aurora. So we're interested in that. We're interested in storms. There are all sorts of things about Saturn that we didn't know before, that we knew a little bit about from the Voyager spacecraft that flew by, but we wanted to learn all sorts of new things about Saturn. So we launched our spacecraft, and it spent 13 years, it took 20 years in space, of that 13 years orbiting Saturn. So it's a really cool mission.
So here is kind of what I'm gathering from this, and I want to make sure we heard you right, Rachel, is that when you were 10 or 11, curiosity and hard work related to science, whether or not you're going to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, and math, is something that is very healthy for children. And who knows what we are going to be exploring 15, 20 years from now. And to the extent that they are interested in a career like that, that's great. Even if they are not interested in a science career, science will be part of their life. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. So also the job that you might have when you're a grown-up might not even exist today. Like when I was your age, there was no mission to Saturn that I could be part of. And by the time I was old enough to have a job, there was a mission to Saturn that I could work on. So just get yourself ready for whatever it is you're interested in, and then you'll be ready in case something like that becomes available to you.
Well,
Do what you love. That's the main message. Is just do what you love.
Well, we'll end on the note of do what you love. And thank you so much for being a STEM volunteer at White Eagle. And we'll make sure we send a little memory from White Eagle back to you.
Okay, guys, we want to get you back soon, but again, bottom line is one of the messages today. It's so exciting and so awesome to hear all that stuff. I want to thank Vikram's dad for making this opportunity available to us. And hey, please remind your parents if they, and he sent emails that if they're available, they can come and volunteer for STEM. We still need volunteers, and that would be great if they could sign up. So, yeah, all right. If you have those papers, just let's make a stack at the end of the collection.